Hey guys, welcome to Doing Things Dan's Way. So today I have my neighbor's 2003 Toyota Camry here, and she's in her late 70s, and she showed me the suggested work order for her car, which included things like $2,900 for a catalytic converter, $2,300 for struts, and another $184 for anti-sway bar tie links. This is a lot of stuff for a car that's only worth about maybe $3,000, $3,500. This thing has 180,000 miles on it. So I took it, did some test driving with it, and what we're pretty sure is wrong here is that the front struts are definitely shot. There's a lot of low frequency clunking sound going on up front. But today what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and replace the struts. So to do that, we need to jack up the car. We're going to jack up the whole front end because we want the tires to hang evenly. Whenever you deal with the suspension, you don't want the anti-sway bars to be kind of in a twisted position, because then you have to deal with that twist, right? So we'll jack the whole car up, support it properly, and then, well, the front end, we'll jack the front end, support it properly, pull the tires, and we'll pull the two bolts off the bottom of the strut mount, and the tie link is attached to that as well, and maybe the brake lines and anti-lock brakes, a couple other things that attach to the structure of the strut. And then we will come in the engine compartment and we will remove the 3 bolts on top, and just at that point we can remove the whole strut assembly. And I bought complete assemblies. I didn't buy just the shell where I have to compress the springs myself. So this makes life a lot easier. You can do that, but you also have to replace the top plate as well where the bearing is, which is another expense. So in all honesty, for me, it's just easier just to swap the whole unit and not have any more risk involved. That's more of a DIY thing. So that's the plan today. Don't go away. This is Doing Things Dan's Way. Okay, tools for this job, you're going to need a torque wrench, basically a typical metric socket set, both half and 3/8 number of sockets, a hammer, crescent wrench, a breaker bar, definitely. It's nice to have a drill which has a socket head or a couple socket heads just for spinning off bolts. And you'll need a grease gun if you're doing the tie rod links, and those are not pre-greased. So you'll definitely need the grease gun for that. So step 1 here, we need to get access to the nut side. You don't want to try and break free the bolt side, you want to break free the nut. And so to get onto there with a socket and a breaker bar, I'm going to be in the way of this line. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this line removal. Just to take off this bolt here, which holds on the brake line. Okay, so with that out of the way, now we can get to these bolts with the breaker. This is a 22 millimeter. Come in here and just lean on this guy. I have to stand on it. It's pretty much all my weight. Yep. Having to bounce it, so it's more than 160 foot-pounds. And this is, I got leverage here, so man, that had been over 200. That is not the spec. So be careful with this brake line here for sure. We're breaking the nuts. Ouch. I do not want to break the, trying to break the bolt side. Definitely will not work. Oh, gosh. Wow. Watch your face. Okay. Now speed things up. Throw that on a socket and spin up. Now don't go all the way out because you're going to need to hammer that. So you just want to get it off the end of the thread there. Yeah, I went way too far. Like that, and then we're going to use a hammer and tap it. You do not want to bang on the threads manually. That would be bad. Okay. These guys off of here. And then all right. This is going to drop, which is why I put the wheel under here. Dang it. Okay. So you can see that's now loose and it's sitting on the tire. Okay, now we can get this tie rod bolt off. And we will need a wrench on the back sides. I don't have a open-ended wrench big enough. It's 11/16 if you've got it. 18 millimeter. And breaker bar is definitely suggested here. Okay. Once you break it free, it's going to want to spin, which is why I have that wrench back there. And again, I'll switch to this guy. Make sure it's grabbing it. There we go. Okay. And right away, yeah, it's super loose. That clicking should not be there. Okay, once we get the strut out of the way, then I'll worry about getting the lower side of this tie link out. Let's hop up top and pull up the 3 bolts up there. Okay, these top bolts up here are 14s, and you'll need a breaker bar, most likely. I mean, I haven't used an adapter because I don't have a small enough socket. But hopefully this will. Yeah, these are on there really good. Okay. And just loosen this one. Okay. Now the whole thing is hanging on that bolt right there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to lift up and unscrew this, and then when I get this off, now I'll come in here and just drop it down. Keep it up because you don't want it to drop down on the boot down here and damage it. So I'm just going to push them off towards the back like that, and pull them out the way. Okay, now let's compare this one to the new one, make sure everything looks good. Okay, you'll notice there are arrows on here. Those arrows point to the outside of the car, and then these are left and right. So the bracket here is the biggest example. You'll see where it's going a different direction on the other side. So these two look right. I think we're good to go. So I'll leave this out for a moment. Let's work on getting this out of the way. Now that I can get my hands all in here, I can easily work on getting this back bolt, which is a real pain getting to that guy. Let's just let this guy relax. 18 again. And I'll put him on a breaker bar just to get him going. This is probably the worst part of this job, honestly. At least on the other side it was. Oh, is that? No, that's just spinning. So I've got to get a wrench in there. And the back side of this is a square. But I mean, it's not a 6-sided thing, it's only a 4-sided thing. So crescent wrench works fairly well. Oh good, that broke free easily. Almost too easily. Okay, now we can go to a big wrench here. Ratchet. Maybe. Don't really have a good place to swing the ratchet. That's a knuckle. Let's tear up my knuckles there. I'm going to cut it off. So I'm just smoking hot still while I'm grinding. Okay, but it's interesting is like, yeah, there's a lot of play, a lot of motion. So this kit that I bought with the struts and everything, it came with the links. I put that in the description below so you can get this exact set or something that will match it. But while you're in there, I mean, as annoying as that was to have to do, having the strut out of the way makes replacing these links just really, really easy. So, and just confirming that that's the same thing, it's the same length, it all looks good. Okay, and we do have to grease these ourselves. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'll do it while it's out. That's easier to show you what's going on. So we're just gonna connect that up, give it pumps. You see it like crack. So 5 pumps is probably good. You see it start to bulge the seal basically all around. You can feel it's kind of inflated almost feeling. Get that nut on. Okay, now I should be able to use the socket on this guy. Assuming it's the same size nut. Still doesn't mean I have much room to get it all lined up. Put my crescent wrench back on it. Doesn't just spin on me. Hey, that wasn't terrible. Noisy, but it worked. I'll take it. But that got it. Okay. It's tight. That is lubed. That feels nice and smooth. Okay. Now that connection is good to go, let's put the strut in. This was a strut job, right? That was the whole point of this, was to replace the struts. I spent way more time on these dumb links, but they were a problem. They really genuinely were a big reason for some of the noise I was hearing. Creaking and groaning is another story entirely, but the clicking noise as the car kind of rocks back and forth, that kind of loads and unloads those links, and they would click back and forth. So it's gonna make a big difference. Okay, so now I'm gonna do is I'm gonna raise this up in position and just get the bolt on up top. So I'm just gonna raise it up. Go. Okay. These guys spot on. Okay, let's tighten those and torque them down. I'm just going to wobble this as I tighten it. I'll put a link in the description below for where you can find the torque specs. I don't like to quote them because I don't want to take responsibility for that for you. But look in the description and I'll have a link to a site that lists all of the required torque specs. Okay, so now that we have the strut in place, and that's going to rotate on the bearings up top, we can go ahead and get this positioned back in place. I realize I'm not going to be able to turn the wheel, so to speak, but I can turn the strut to line up with the wheel. And then get our big bolts back in here. This can take lots of fussing around if things aren't lined up really happy. This is going pretty nicely. Let's see, I'm going to get this wheel out of the way. This whole thing needs to pivot back. There we go. Okay, and the hammer can just tap it flush, and then get our big old honking bolts back on here. That's me. And again, this is that 22mm socket. Definitely get them both close before you torque them, just because there could be other movement or play that happens as a result. So tightening one or the other. Yeah, that one's suddenly really loose again. So getting close. Okay. Come on. Okay. Whew. And then don't forget to back down your torque wrench after you use it. You do not want to leave it, especially in a really high torque position like that. Okay, so now we're just going to put back on this brake line. Oh. Now, get one more tie bolts to go. Let's go here. And again, we'll have to use a crescent wrench on the back side to lock it down. Okay. Okay, tie rod bottom and top is tight. The top is tight and torqued. Tight, tight, tight. Now brakes, while you're in here, definitely do your brakes. It's just take out these two pins, pull this off, swap out the pads, compress the caliper, grease up these pins, put it all back together again. It's like another half an hour total. So don't get all this far in and not replace your pads if the pads are close to ready. Forgot I need to clean this area right here. I can see a smudge before I finish this up. So let me clean this off. We'll put the wheel back on and this side's done. Then just gotta finish up the other side and take it for a test drive. Well, I'm overexposed. Okay guys, well, that's it. The tires are back on and it's time to take this for a test drive. Yeah, rocking it around, it sounds way quieter. What was this like in debrief? This tie link was a real pain in the butt. So I could have done without that. Both sides getting that backside bolt off was the hardest part of this whole job. It was the part that made it not fun. Everything else, the struts just come and go really quickly, but getting them disconnected is kind of a challenge. So is this a job for a beginner? Well, you be the judge. If you feel comfortable with what you saw, didn't have any elaborate tools. I mean, a grease gun, a torque wrench, a few things you definitely need. So this is definitely very doable. You'll want a very high torque, 150 foot-pound plus torque wrench to be able to put on those struts. And again, I'll have a link description to the torque specs. If you hit up those Amazon links down below, those do help promote this channel. But I will have links to all the different tools and especially the struts and the links and stuff that I use for this video. That's about it for this one. There's a playlist up here for some other Camry related DIY repair that I've done in the past. And future ones will get added to that list as well. I've got a couple other things to do on this car. Don't forget to smash on my face right here to subscribe so you'll see the next videos in this series come out. And until next time, guys, be blessed.